Well, lots more to come here on the Night Beat. It is one of the fastest growing parts of our city. That brings with it a lot of problems.
Yeah, tonight I talked to the Department of Transportation to find out some of their plans on making a far north side neighborhood a lot easier to navigate. Plus, a Central Texas farmer is scratching his head over the mysterious deaths of 15 head of cattle.
What Texas AgriLife has to say about it and how it could all be tied back to drought conditions. And it was once called the eighth wonder of the world, but now some are calling it one huge eyesore.
Yeah, we'll show you some of the plans in front of Houston officials about what to do with the Astrodome. That's coming up right after sports.
You know, what's interesting is to see that Astrodome and compare it to Reliant Stadium right next.
Well, we've got a lot more coming up on the Night Beat. It was one of the worst wildfires in recent memory. Now it's hurting the tourism industry in a small town a lot of Texans call their second home. What they're doing to get back on their feet.
Plus, we told you about it last night. Now hear from the neighbors horrified by a man that police say got high and then ate his dog. New details still to come.
And right after the break, our hot temperatures today, just a reminder of how bad things got last summer when those rolling blackouts became the norm. What electricity officials are saying about expectations for this year's scorcher of a summer. That's coming up right after this.
We've been telling you about it all day. The heat is on for 2012, with electricity officials saying power demands broke records for a second consecutive day. The Electric Reliability Council of Texas, or ERCOT, says they surpassed 65,000 megawatts yesterday and almost 67,000 megawatts today. Last year, ERCOT was forced to go into rolling blackouts in the state's biggest cities to keep the grid from crashing. And with heat advisories popping up all over, it's important to keep an eye on your energy use. Stick around. We're going to check in again with Steve Brown in a few minutes for a look at just what this heat is going to do next.
But first, it is one of the most fastest growing parts of town and also one of the most congested. We're talking about I-10 from Ralph Fair Road all the way to Dominion Drive. Tonight, an open house was held for the public to get their first look at improvements to the area in hopes of easing some of those problems. Interstate 10 can be a frustrating place to be. Just ask this room full of residents who have to travel it every day to and from their homes. Because of those traffic headaches, TxDOT held an open house tonight, giving residents an opportunity to see a new proposed plan for the area. Among the items suggested, reconstructing the bridge at Ralph Fair Road, the conversion of frontage roads to one-way lanes, and adding new turnarounds to help with traffic flow. Residents say these improvements are desperately needed, but still don't go far enough, especially when it comes to I-10.
Our big disappointment is 10 never got widened. And it's not going to be any wider than it is right now. And 10 needs to be wider because every morning on the radio, traffic backs up. Ralph Fair Road all the way into De Zavala. Well, because 10's not wide enough out here.
They've done all these improvements, yet they haven't widened it. And the growth and population out I-10, it just seems like that would have been top on the list.
And while it may not be in the works for now, it's something TxDOT says might come to pass later on down the road.
That's something that we know there is a demand for and there is a need for. However, it does take funding for us to be able to do that.
Now, there are two projects being proposed, which would cost a total of $20 million. Now, the timeline to get everything done is 18 months.
We have new information about a Department of Public Safety initiative known as Road Check 2012. More than 8,000 commercial trucks were inspected over a 3-day period earlier this month. About 22% of those 18-wheelers taken out of service because of safety violations, things like brakes, lighting, tires, the most commonly found problems. And about 250 drivers were taken out of service for failing to comply with state and federal laws. Improper logging of duty time, driving over the maximum number of hours, and improper type of license. Just some of the culprits. Road Check performed every year in an effort to reduce highway fatalities.
Around Texas tonight, the future of the Astrodome is still up in the air. Harris County commissioners have been given several recommendations about what to do with the vacant and deteriorating facility. Consultants have recommended turning the stadium into a multi-purpose arena, which would cost about $270 million. Another idea, a 10,000-seat arena to replace the smaller Reliant Arena in the same parking lot, which would cost about $385 million. No decision was made today.
A Central Texas rancher wondering what caused 15 of his cows to die simply from eating grass. It happened in Elgin, that's near Austin. Test results from Texas AgriLife show that particular type of grass known as Tifton 85 that the cows were eating had traces of cyanide in it. That can happen with certain types of wild grass, especially in drought conditions, but Tifton 85 is supposed to be safe.
This pasture has been here, just this one with the Tifton has been here for 15 years. We've grazed cattle and horses on it and have cut and baled hay on it all this time.
Agriculture experts say the strain of grass may have mutated in the wild because there's no sign of genetic modification. This is the first case of Tifton 85 ever poisoning livestock.
Testimony in the punishment phase has ended in the trial of a Houston man who tried to use Texas's self-defense law in the murder of a neighbor. Raul Rodriguez faces up to life in prison for the 2010 shooting. Today, his wife took the stand to talk about what she called his remorse over the shooting. The killing was caught on video. Jurors will begin deliberating after closing arguments tomorrow.
What he did to the dog, you never believe it can happen to your own community.
New details on a story we told you about last night as people in Waco are still shocked over the actions of a man that police say was high on synthetic marijuana. Waco police say no one could have predicted what Michael Teron Daniel would do next.
A suspect got on his hands and knees and was actually crawling and growling and barking like a dog. He had blood on his mouth and fur on his mouth, and his hands also had blood and fur on them, and he was holding a dead dog in his lap.
Daniels is charged with animal cruelty. His family says they're trying to get back to normal. Police say it's a reminder of the dangers of any kind of drug, especially synthetic ones.
And that story just the latest in a string of graphic and disturbing crimes happening when on synthetic drugs like bath salts. A 20-year-old California man was in court today after pleading not guilty after police say he hit a woman in the head with a shovel after taking the drug. Police say Robert White was swinging the shovel at birds when the woman asked him to stop, and then he attacked her. He's charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
The family of a woman whose body was found burned beyond recognition gathering tonight to remember her. A memorial service held tonight for 25-year-old Jackie Johnson, who was found back on June 2nd in the 100 block of Schrader Road, burned so badly that dental records had to be used to identify her. Her family says they just want answers.
Just if anybody knows anything, please come forward. That's all I have to say. Just please come forward.
Police initially had a hard time identifying Johnson's body until her family stepped forward.
Well, the economy is still at the top of election issues, with President Obama saying he'll bring jobs back into the U.S. that have moved overseas. The president has attacked Mitt Romney's record at a private equity firm, saying it invested in companies that send jobs to China and India. Those comments were made at a fundraiser in Miami today. Romney has defended his time in the private sector, saying it makes him more qualified to serve as president. Meanwhile, Governor Perry announcing he's bringing in about 800 new jobs into Texas, including 250 right here in San Antonio. United Health Group, a health insurance company, is setting up shop all over the state. Perry says Texas is attracting jobs because it has lower taxes and fewer regulations. The governor recently made a similar deal with Apple to bring development into the state.
Well, all eyes are on the Supreme Court as the decision on the president's health care overhaul is expected this week. Mitt Romney says if the court overturns the bill, it will mean the president's first term was a waste. If it's upheld, Romney says he'll overturn the law if elected using different types of reforms. But his campaign has yet to announce a comprehensive health plan. That decision, one that Texans are closely watching as well. State leaders have been slow to embrace it in case the Supreme Court decides not to uphold Obamacare, as it's called. Governor Perry and other leaders have blasted the law. Texas just one of several states challenging it in court. About 25% of Texans are uninsured. Health and Human Service officials say the state is ready to implement the new health care changes if the act is upheld. Perry has said the state can deliver health care cheaper than the federal government.
Well, here we are 20 minutes till 11, still in the 90s out there today.
Yeah, and it looks like maybe our rain chances have gone for the moment. Steve sees some in the horizon, though. Steve.
Down to our south, while we've been on the air, they had some tree damage down in Atascosa County, some trees down on I-37, that big cell right there, although it looks like it might be starting to dissipate somewhat. and that's pretty far south of San Antonio. We'll check that out, and some of the storm totals were pretty good for a select few. And what do we have in our future? I do think we have better weather ahead. More in a minute.
Thanks, Steve. Flooding and evacuations as Tropical Storm Debbie rolls through Florida. Still to come on the Night Beat. A look at the more interesting damage in some parts of the state.
And coming up in the buzz, the writer and director of some groundbreaking movies dies after a long battle with an illness. The details right after the break.
Tonight in the buzz, an acclaimed writer and director of some favorite romantic comedies has died. Nora Ephron is known for the films You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle. She also wrote the script for When Harry Met Sally. Ephron had suffered from a blood disorder for the past 6 years. She was 71 years old.
One of the worst wildfires in New Mexico history is hindering tourism to one of their most popular spots. Village of Ruidoso officials have recently launched a campaign trying to get tourists to visit after a 44,000-acre fire destroyed over 250 buildings. While the flames never got within 3 miles of the town, officials say media coverage has turned people off to visiting, and that everything is actually safe there. Ruidoso is known during the summer for its cooler temperatures, horse racing, and gambling.
Another major fire that we've been following for you, this one in Colorado, where they have been seeing temperatures a lot like we did today. 100+ degrees, not making things easier for firefighters there. More than 250 homes have been destroyed in the High Park fire. It all started from a lightning strike. It has burned 136 square miles. Tonight, it is about 55% contained, but at least 4 other wildfires are burning across Colorado, including, I understand, in Colorado Springs, where there's some parts of the Air Force Academy that are actually in danger from these flames.
Yeah, it's scary to see that video. Reminder of last summer when we had wildfires of our own.
Bastrop,
yeah. Certainly still need that rain, though, Steve.
Yeah, we didn't get any tonight.
Well, before we go tonight, we've been telling you about Tropical Storm Debbie for days, and take a look at some of the strange damage it's doing in Florida. These sinkholes started forming after nearly 2 feet of rain fell in parts of the state. Several homes are nearby, and officials are working to get people to higher ground.
Daybreak's going to be fair. We still have a thunderstorm going down there just west of Pleasanton, but nothing up here. Mostly sunny, and we'll be up to 96 by noon. And then tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be another sizzler, but not quite as brutal as it was today. Temperatures are coming down slowly, and hopefully we'll see some scattered thunderstorms by late in the weekend.
Got a string of 100s we're putting together, though.
Yeah, too many for me.
Yeah, that does it for the Night Beat. GMSA at 4:30.
Have a good night.